Hello there, people of the internet. Today is the next video in a series of videos that I'm calling the Road to 100,000, where I'm basically going through every single firearm inside of my arsenal, and I'm trying to earn my way up to 100,000 subscribers. So if you think I have earned your subscription on this video, then go ahead and mash that subscribe button. It is literally free. But besides that, let's go ahead and dive right into what we're talking about today. Of course, I'm sure a lot of you guys recognize this. This is the SKS. There's a lot of history behind this rifle, but not nearly as much as a lot of people feel like there should have been. So, well, I guess let's go ahead and get started at the very beginning. During the Second World War, whenever countries were running around with full-power bolt-action rifles like this Mosin Nagant 9130 in the case of the Russians, it was becoming very clear that full-power rifle cartridges were not necessarily something that was, well, necessary for all of the infantry soldiers to have. They were full power, so that meant that they were heavy, they were bulky, clunky. Soldiers could only carry a finite amount of ammunition based off of the weight, so they could only carry a fraction of the ammunition that they would be able to carry if they switched to a more intermediate cartridge. So the 7.62x39 is actually what came after the 7.62x54 rimmed. This is a rimless cartridge, and it is designed for automatic platforms. During the time period where the intermediate cartridge was being adopted, self-loading rifles were being adopted alongside, well, those kinds of rifles. Now, there are plenty of self-loading rifles chambered in a full power rifle cartridge. However, as we have seen from just technology as it has progressed, intermediate cartridges was definitely going to be the wave of the future. You could carry a lot more ammunition. You did not need a full power rifle cartridge to be able to touch out to the significant distances that was originally anticipated whenever these cartridges were being developed. So a smaller, less powerful cartridge was a good way to go. Faster follow-up shots, lighter weight, so you could carry more ammunition. I imagine that these right here would be more economic to produce as well, because they have less components inside of them in comparison to a full power rifle cartridge. So I believe that the SKS also began development in 1943 as well. However, it may have seen very, very limited use at the very end of World War II, but a lot of us, myself included, will just flat out say that these probably did not see any use in the Second World War. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. Documentation and whatnot really leads a lot to be desired. From that time period, there was a lot going on in the world. So the SKS, we have ourselves, if we're talking the standard military spec SKS, a 10-round internal magazine fed from stripper clip from the top of the rifle. This is a self-loading rifle, and it opens up from the top just like this and locks open on an empty magazine. With it locking open on an empty magazine like this, this is what allows you to be able to load your stripper clip from the top of the rifle. Stripper clips hold 10 rounds. This one has 9 rounds because that one single round that is not there is a special round of ammunition that we're going to save for the end of the video. But the stripper clip loads into the bolt just like that, lines up with the magazine, and then you simply push your cartridges into the rifle whenever you're ready to fire, pull your charging handle back, and if you have cartridges in there, it will fly forward, lock into battery, and just like that, your rifle would be ready to go if this was loaded. Of course, the SKS would be overshadowed with Russia adopting the AK-47 not long after the development and adoption of this right here. However, the SKS would go to see service in many other countries. The Vietnamese used it, the Koreans used it, the Germans used it in some aspects. The Albanians, they used it, I know for a fact. The Chinese, they used it very, very heavily. However, for the most part, if we're talking about the Russians, it more or less got used for ceremonial purposes, or as a, what would I call it, war aid, where they gave aid to other countries to aid in whatever conflicts it is that those other countries were dealing with, if Russia had certain political aspirations for that country to be able to succeed. So the actual premise of the rifle is incredibly simple. We'll go ahead and we'll do a disassembly this rifle after we send a couple of rounds down range. 7.62x39, this is a 123-ish grain projectile that's going to be traveling at about 2,400 feet per second, and the barrel of the SKS is longer than the barrel of a lot of your AKs nowadays. Now, of course, there are going to be some exceptions, but the standard length for your AK here in the United States is going to be about 16 inches. You can get them longer, but the standard for the modern-made AK is going to be about 16 inches. I'm not sure how long the barrel for the SKS is. I'll go ahead, look that up, and I'll include that somewhere in the video right here. So that all being said, this right here is a double stack magazine. Otherwise the magazine would be quite a deal longer. If the rounds were single stack, it would be approximately that long or so. But double stack magazine, double stack feed, and this is a tilting lock action. We will see that whenever we take this rifle apart. We do have in the front of the receiver the same style of leaf sight that Russia has been using since the adoption of their 9130. Same style, not quite identical by any means, but definitely the same kind of style of sight. These cartridges, the 7.62x39, was not intended to touch out beyond 400 yards because most of the infantry fighting was taking place within that 400 yards. During the development of this rifle right here, the idea of having a intermediate cartridge to be able to touch out to the distances that combat was actually taking place at, as opposed to what was expected for combat to be taking place at, this intermediate cartridge was simply a better overall design for all the reasons that we've already stated. But one of the things that Russia was looking to do was to combine their rifle and SMG capabilities into one singular platform. The SKS did not do that, with it being a semi-automatic only platform. However, whenever the Russian military did adopt the AK platform, they adopted it with the idea of being able to use it as both a rifle and a submachine gun in the event that they needed to. That's why it is a select fire platform. So the SKS, I do want to say, normally does have a bayonet on it. Right up here, this doohickey right here on the end of the barrel, this is where the bayonet attachment would be. This one obviously does not have that. They're either going to be a spike or a blade style bayonet that would just rest under the rifle right there, and you would have yourself a rifle with a bayonet attached to it, kind of what they did with the Mosin Nagant M44 with their spike bayonet that just kind of sits onto the side of the rifle. So that being said, I think I've said basically everything I want to say about this. Let's go ahead, load a couple of rounds up, send some lead down range, and run a couple of experiments. After that, we'll go ahead and disassemble this rifle. Hopefully the history lesson here and the shooting and the disassembly and whatnot will be enough to earn your subscription, because this is my efforts to try and get more people to subscribe. The amount of people who watch my stuff who are not subscribed is tremendous. 90-something, 97 to high 90s, 97% or so people who watch my stuff have not subscribed. So I want to go ahead and I want to change that. So let's go ahead, see if I can convince you guys by sending some lead down range now that we've already covered some history behind these rifles. Alright, so the SKS, semi-automatic platform, and the bolt literally does just lock open on the empty mag. And now, just like what we saw before, I can take my stripper clip here, shove it into the stripper clip guide on the back of the bolt, just like that. And I should be able to just shove my rounds directly into the magazine. This right here is not a reproduction stripper clip. This is one of the original military-made ones. This one appears to be made by Izhvesk, I believe that's what that is. So this right here is a pretty good quality stripper clip. As you saw, I didn't struggle at all sending those rounds into our magazine. Sometimes they can be a little bit on the difficult and finicky side. So after that, charging handle back, let go forward. That should have chambered around. Go ahead and double check that. Yes, it did in fact chamber around. Now we're going to go ahead and just send a couple of rounds. This right here is an automatic platform. So as I tell a lot of people who come out here who I let use this thing, they ask me, do you have to cycle it every time? And I tell them, no. Automatic platform, self-loading rifle, well, semi-automatic, I guess. It's a self-loading rifle, so it loads itself whenever you fire. It is semi-automatic, so you do have to pull the trigger every single time that you want to fire. You can't just hold it down. But that being said, let's send a round. Yep, that's 7.62x39, all right. 30 caliber pill, heavy, but not very fast. And since we are only moving at about 2,400 feet per second, normally, if we were to have about the same weight cartridge from a full power rifle cartridge, like a 30-06, a 120 grain 30-06, it would be moving at about 3,400 feet per second or so, approximately, depending on your loading and whatnot. But that right there would be, well, this is absolutely an intermediate cartridge. Same weight pill, traveling at about 1,000 feet slower. Of course, this right here is a 311 diameter bullet as opposed to the 30-06 308 diameter bullet. Oh, we had ourselves a little bit of a hang fire there. This right here is steel case ammo. It's old. It happens. Let's see if we can actually nail our target this time. All right. Fantastic. Wonderful. Oh, Well, that's all 9 of my rounds. That was fun. For how heavy of a rifle this is and how the 7.62 x 39 is not a particularly powerful or potent cartridge, especially in comparison to full power rifle rounds, the recoil on it is not that bad. Now, I know I said we were going to do a disassembly of this, but we're not quite done shooting this thing yet. Let me show you guys what I have here. I want to see, just for myself really, but I guess I'll go ahead and record it because you guys are here. And I want to see what the power difference is between 7.62 x 54 rimmed and 7.62 x 39. So I have 2 cartridges, one of each. And what I have is I'm going to go ahead and send some water jugs out downrange. We're going to shoot them, one with each cartridge, and see the results. See what kind of power difference there is between the two. Now, normally with full metal jackets, those rounds would just zip right through the target. And there would be, I mean, you probably would see a difference, but it wouldn't be quite the spectacle that we want to see here. So what I do, this is something I do normally, you can't really do this for long range accuracy, but it does exert a tremendous amount of force onto the target. I have full metal jackets and I literally just kind of grind the tip off. Now, I am a reloader, I do pull the bullets. People tell me, hey, don't do that, you're going to set off your cartridges from the heat. And I'm like, guys, it's pulled the bullets and it's very, very simple, very easy. But this right here, they're uneven. This is not machine work. If I did it all on my milling machine, I could probably get away with it. But these right here would probably start to tumble out at some longer distances, so I would not trust this for long-range accuracy. But for closer up, since we have an increased surface area, these are on these full metal jackets, we have this increased surface area. This should put forth a lot more force, a lot more energy onto the target before the projectile actually passes through the target. So we should see these water jugs explode pretty spectacularly with these right here. Question is, we got ourselves, well, a 123 grain bullet-ish with a little bit ground off, and a 174 grain bullet-ish, a little bit ground off, and they're both going to be traveling at roughly the same velocities. This one right here, probably a little bit faster. We're going to run this through our 1891 pattern, and, well, that's got the longer barrel, and I won't have to worry about a bunch of concussive blasts. So they will be traveling at roughly the same speeds, probably about 200 or so feet per second difference between the two, but I don't have a chronograph out here, so I can't really gauge that, can't really state that one. But let's go ahead, set up a target, and send some lead. Alright, hopefully you guys can see that out there. Let's go ahead. I grab my SKS here. We're going to send 7.62 x 39 first. This is our ground round. And we're just gonna shoot it at that water jug. See how much it explodes. Let's send around here. Oh my god, that was significantly more than if we were to hit that thing with a full metal jacket. Wow, that blew that thing apart. We'll go grab that here in a second and check it out. Now we're gonna do the same thing with our 1891 pattern Mosin using a full power rifle cartridge, 7.62 x 54 rimmed. Shove this in here, just like that. Alright, now just because of, I could probably get away with that. Nah, I'm going to go ahead and stand right here. Just because of the angle of what it is that we're at, I want the bullet to, whenever it passes through the water jug, to go into the car. So we're going to send around here. Hopefully you guys can see that alright. Let's send it. Oh my god. Okay. Alright, that split it in half. Fantastic. Yeah, these bullets are fun. If you're a reloader and you can manage to pull and put back on and crimp down and do all the things you got to do for your projectiles, then I recommend giving it a try. Alright, well, both of these cartridges put forth a tremendous amount of force. 7.62 x 39 completely decimated our water jug here. 54 rimmed also decimated our water jug, but it blew it in half, and the upper half of this water jug went flying probably about 3 or 4 feet off of the ground whenever it was impacted. So definitely has more power behind the 7.62 x 54 rimmed, but of course anybody could have told you that. So yeah, that is a substantial amount more power, as a matter of fact. Now I imagine that the power difference would probably be more significant and more substantial out at further distances since we have 7.62 x 39 here traveling at the speeds it's at. It's not really rated to be able to hit past 400 yards. Of course, there are people who can absolutely pull that off. But I imagine that the velocities would probably be dipping down to the point to where the impact on target would be significantly less substantial than a 7.62 x 54 rimmed at 400 yards. So I'm going to go ahead and set these down because I'm getting mud all over myself. And I'm going to say, hey folks, thanks for watching. I appreciate your time. Oh, wait, hold on. We still have to do a disassembly. But let's go ahead and pull this SKS apart. I'm not sure how easily I'll be able to pull this thing apart with the camera right there. If I bump something, I do apologize. So to start off with this right here, little lever right here on the back, this should lift up. I have not pulled an SKS apart in a while. Lift up and lift down like this. It should be captive, so it should stop right there. Top cover should come off. There we go. Top cover comes off just like that. There's our top cover. Here's our recoil spring. Pop this bad boy out. Seeing it curved up like that, that's normal. That's what I tell, every date that I have. It's normal for it to be curved like that. SKS, here's our bolt and bolt carrier. Pull this to the rear, pop it out, and, well, that's just gonna fall down there. That's fine. But right here, this is our actual locking system. If you see, right here's our bolt carrier, right here's our bolt. It will lock up into the bolt carrier. Just like that, whenever it closes, we have our little locking system right there. Hopefully that's popping up well enough on camera. This GoPro doesn't have a screen on it, so I can't really see what you guys see. But obviously this needs to be cleaned. But here's our bolt carrier. Those two come apart just like that. And I do want to go ahead and give this little tidbit of information. The firing pin right here inside of the bolt, these are notorious for causing slam fires. If you get some kind of debris or cosmoline or something inside of the firing pin chamber, it can actually cause the firing pin to stick forward, so it will actually slam fire whenever that bolt slams closed. Alright, and for the most part right here, this is basically what you would want to do if you were field stripping this thing, with the exception of if you were shooting corrosive ammo or something like that. Then you would have to take apart the gas system, which is very easy. This little lever just lifts up, and then you have your little piston right here. This comes off, little piston right there. Very, very, very simple to take apart the gas system on this thing. Literally all you do, that lever, lift it up, and everything just kind of comes apart right there. I'm not going to do that because I don't have, well, anything to be able to lift that lever up. You're supposed to have some sort of bullet or projectile or screwdriver or pin or something that you can set inside of here so you can lift this up to disassemble the gas system. I don't have anything like that out here, and I don't feel like having to deal with the little pistons and rods that are inside of this thing. So we're just going to go ahead and do a quick field stripping for you guys so you guys can see what is going on with our SKS here. So thanks for watching, folks. I do appreciate your time. Like, subscribe, share. Description below, link to all sorts of stuff. Go ahead and go check that out. Hopefully this earned y'all's subscription, and I will see you guys on the next video. Since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. Poor man's Garen. It's a shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't more mainstream.